Hello, everyone. Welcome to the National Student Exchange pre-departure session. We'll be going over all the things that you'll need to know about before you go, while you're there, and when you return. So by now, you probably have received instructions from your host university, as each host university is going to have their own requirements that you'll have to apply, very similarly to how you applied here at NDSU. So make sure that you follow all of those instructions that are laid out by your host coordinator. It could be things like the application for admission, applying for housing and meal plans, applying for a parking pass if you're planning to bring a vehicle, course registration, and then any additional things that they require as well. If you do have any specific questions about the admissions process or anything that is provided to you by your host coordinator, be sure that you reach out to them directly, as they'll be able to help you more concretely, or at least point you in the direction of who can help you. As far as academics, here at NDSU, there won't be any specific courses that you'll be taking. We will be enrolling you in our placeholder course, which is called University 492. This is just a placeholder course. There's nothing associated with it as far as coursework. It just shows NDSU that you are studying away for the semester, and it allows you to be able to use financial aid and gives the classes that you take while you're away a place to go back to. Our office will be enrolling you in this course, so there's nothing that you need to do specifically. We'll take care of that for you. And then, of course, you'll enroll in your specific courses through your host campus. And just be sure that you're meeting with your academic advisor and your department to know which classes that you should be taking while you're away. A little bit about finances. There are two main payment options. So we have the host payment, or Plan A, it's sometimes referred to as. This just means that all of your aid is still going to be done through Campus Connection and will follow the normal disbursement dates. You will be paying the host university's tuition for this payment option. If you are using financial aid, be sure to not put the host campus on your FAFSA, as you might be charged tuition at both universities. And then we have our home payment, or our Plan B. And again, all of your aid is going to still go through Campus Connection and will follow the normal disbursement dates. This option is where you're paying NDSU tuition, so you will still see that tuition on your Campus Connection like normal. Aid is going to be dispersed following NDSU timeline. So this may mean that you need to make a payment to your host university while you're waiting for NDSU disbursement to come through. Because of this, you'll want to make sure that you are enrolled in direct deposit through Campus Connection. So as soon as your aid comes through, it can be dispersed into your bank account, and then you're able to use that aid to pay anything to your host universities on their equivalent of Campus Connection. If you are planning to study at a university that's outside of the United States, so these would be those who are planning to study in Canada, you will need to make sure that you have a passport and know any of your visa requirements before you go. So just making sure that your passport is accurate, making sure that your passport is up to date, all of those things that you need to make sure that you do before you go so you're able to enter Canada. The name on your flight, and this goes for anyone, if you're planning to fly, the name on your flight needs to match either your passport exactly if you're using that, or your driver's license or other identification. Um, make sure that you need to know, or make sure you know what you need prior to your travel. So when you show up to the airport, there's no surprises. If you have lost your passport, um, make sure that you do keep an electronic copy, whether it's in your phone or on your laptop or something like that. Make sure that you have a copy of your passport and it's stored in a safe place. So if you do lose it, you at least have a copy of that and it's a lot easier to get replaced. So if you do lose it, you'll want to report it lost or stolen on the travel.gov website, and then that's when you can start replacing it. And that might mean working with a local embassy if you are in Canada, or just working virtually on the travel.state.gov website to get that replaced for you. The Real ID, so this is essentially that enhanced driver's license that we've been hearing about for the last few years. The Real ID is going to go into effect May 7th, 2025. And this just means that every air traveler 18 years or older will need a Real ID compliant driver's license. So if you're going within the United States, um, and you want to use your driver's license as your form of identification, you'll need to make sure that it's that enhanced version of the driver's license. You can use a passport regardless, and that is sufficient as well. As far as packing, you'll just want to make sure that you know what the baggage weight is if you're planning to fly. Um, each each air carrier is going to have different allowances, and you'll just want to make sure that you know what those are. A lot of students do tend to have a checked bag, so one of those bigger bags, and then maybe like a carry-on and a personal item, and that's usually sufficient. But again, you'll want to make sure what those are. Take less than you think that you'll need. A lot of times students will come back saying that they took way too much stuff while they're there. Um, Try to be mindful of how you pack. You want to pack pretty practical. So maybe having a couple pairs of shoes, and then a lot of clothes that can kind of be dual purpose. So things that you can wear with a lot of different outfits. Things that you'll definitely want to make sure that you pack with you, not in a checked bag, but either in your personal item or a carry-on that you're going to have with you, is any medical supplies that you need, photocopies of your passport if you need, and then any valuables, so like your laptop, things like that. I always try to bring like one change of clothes in case, your luggage gets lost or something like that. You'll have at least that. And then obviously you can always purchase things when you're on ground as well. But just making sure that you know what those allowances are, take less than you think you'll need, and make sure that you have those things that are valuable packed with you. As far as money, um, obviously you're going to be staying within the United States or Canada. So credit cards, debit cards, cash, ATMs are all going to be available to you. One thing that you'll want to mention though is that you call your credit card or your debit card company, your bank, to let them know that you'll be traveling, and what those dates of travel are going to be so they don't think that it's fraudulent and turn your card off. You'll also want to keep in mind any banking fees or exchange fees at ATMs, um, to kind of help you budget for while you're there. So if you have an ATM fee that's like $3 or whatever, you might want to take out more than $20 at a time because the fees are, a little bit higher. So just kind of be mindful of that. Um, I recommend that you bring at least two forms of payment. So whether that's a debit and credit card or debit and cash, however you want to do that. And then make sure that you have things kind of separated. So maybe keeping your debit card in your wallet, but having cash in your luggage, something like that, just so you have some backups if, your debit card doesn't work or you're not in an area where there's ATMs, some things like that. And then always keeping a digital copy of the front and back of any of your cards. So then if you do lose it, or it's stolen or something like that, then you can have that information of how to report it lost or stolen to your bank. Health matters. So, if you are a traveler with any pre existing conditions, you'll want to make sure that you have the proper um, information that can be then used while you're on ground. So, carrying something from your local physician or making sure that you know what your prescriptions are, including the generic name, in case you do need to get a prescription while you're away. You can also just make sure that you have enough of your prescription with you while you're there so you don't have to fill it while you're there, but you'll just want to make sure that you have that information in case it's needed. And then it's really important to keep any medications that you have, whether it's prescription or over the counter, in their original containers and clearly labeled. You don't want to have them in anything that um, makes it hard to identify what those medications are. So just make sure that you're keeping those in their original containers. And then a little bit more about health things. So any medical information that you need, you should have with you. So any medications that you take, knowing what those are. Um, Sometimes it might be um, required to share some of this information or at least like your immunizations with your host university if they have any required immunizations or health exams or anything like that. Just making sure you know what those are and getting that to them before you get there. Cultural adjustments. A lot of people think that since you're studying within the United States, that you're not going to go through culture shock or you're not going to experience any different cultures. Um, but that's just not true. Because the culture that you're coming from here in North Dakota, Minnesota, or the Midwest is going to be a lot different than the culture that you're going to see on the East Coast, on the West Coast, in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, things like that. So just making sure that you're staying open-minded, you're there to learn, observe, and participate in the local culture. So definitely feel free to get involved, take classes that are specific to that location, really kind of immerse yourself in this experience. Um, and remember to remain positive if there are differences that occur. If it's a language barrier, if it's food, things like that. Just try to remain positive and make the most out of your experience because in the scheme of things, this is going to be a short period of your college career. So definitely try to make the most out of where you are and the things that you're seeing and doing. And just a reminder too, even though you're going to be a student at your host university, you're also still a student here at NDSU, meaning that you do have to adhere by the student code of conduct here. So any disciplinary actions that happen while you're away, it does follow you back here to NDSU, and there might be repercussions. If there are things that happen while you're away that could potentially lead to an expulsion and a removal of the program. So just making sure that you're making good choices, that you're being a good representative of Fargo, North Dakota, Minnesota, the United States, and NDSU while you're away. So, a few things that you can do to prepare for your NSC experience is research the places that you want to see and things that you want to do. Because again, this is going to be a short period of time for you. And you're going to want to make sure that you kind of know what you want to be doing and seeing there. Maybe it's you're wanting to travel to see a specific thing, or maybe you're wanting to network in the local community because you want to get a job there someday. Whatever it is that's kind of motivating you to go to NDSU or to go on NSE, make sure that you're kind of doing those research things ahead of time. Number two, a lot of the host universities are going to have activities planned just for NSE students, but also for students at the university at whole. So make sure that you're looking out for those types of experiences to kind of get involved in, whether it's an intramural sport or maybe it's a club, something like that. Just try to get involved because it's going to help you with that immersion process. You are an actual student at the host university that you're going to, so you have all the amenities and things available to you as a degree seeking student would have. So be sure that you're taking advantage of that. And again, just reiterating, making the most out of your experience. Um, think about what has drawn you to this specific um, program. What is it that you want to get out of your experience while you're there? When you're thinking about those, that kind of helps you make a game plan of like what you want to do while you're there. And again, it's going to be a short period of time in the scheme of things, so just make sure that you're making the most out of your experience while you're there. And then finally, get involved, whether that's in clubs, whether that's off campus experiences, whatever that means to you and however you kind of want to do it. Um, because it really does help you acclimate better to the university, but then also the larger community that you're in as well. And with that, that is all I have. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to our office, and I'd be happy to meet with you and answer any questions that you have. Here's our website, and then here is the NSE website if you have any questions.